The sizzling Arctic. Top 5 climate horror stories in NOAA's report card. The wrecking of our beautiful Earth is upon us. Joe and Cole reports. NOAA issued its annual report on the Arctic, and it's a big report, but there are some terrifying findings about this. Because this point is not always made in journalism, it's important to underline why these monster things are happening. It's because you are driving your gasoline-fueled automobile, heating your house with coal, voting for people that don't care about these things. Now, the wrecking of our beautiful Earth is upon us. One, the Greenland ice sheet is losing nearly 267 billion metric tons of ice per year and currently contributing to global average sea level rise at a rate of about 0.7 millimeters per year. That means the ice sheet is radically shrinking and the seas are rising. As Emma Gatton at the Telegraph puts it, the ice is melting 7 times faster than in the 1990s, yielding a rate of sea level rise that could put 40 million people at risk of flooding. Now, Niskan Apkan of PBS quoted, 267 billion tons of ice is really hard to put into context, but you could start by imagining a herd of elephants charging into the ocean from Greenland. Osberg said, if you imagine that, we're talking about 2,000 elephants charging into the ocean every second. That's how much mass is going from Greenland into the ocean. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box. This is one of the typical roads in Siberia. You can see everything is permafrost there. Now, the Wang permafrost throughout the Arctic could be releasing an estimated 300 to 600 million tons of net carbon per year into the atmosphere. The imagery of what we could say was like 7.2 million elephants charging into the ocean from Greenland every hour of the day, every day of the year. The permafrost had been a carbon sink in the summer, but now it may be tipping over to releasing more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere in the winter than it takes in during the growing season. So it is a net producer of carbon dioxide, CO2, alongside humankind, which is spewing out the stuff like 7.7 billion active volcanoes. We didn't need the help, and its tipping point was supposed to be in the near future. Bruce Johansson of the University of Nebraska, Omaha, explains, in a study published in Nature Climate Change, scientists estimated that 1.7 billion metric tons of carbon were lost from Arctic permafrost regions during each winter from 2003 to 2017. Over the same span, an average of 1 billion metric tons of carbon were taken up by vegetation during summer growing seasons. This changes the region from being a net sink of carbon dioxide, where it is captured from the atmosphere and stored, into being a net source of emissions. 3. August mean sea surface temperatures in 2019 were 3 degrees Fahrenheit, that's 1.7 degrees Celsius, warmer than the period between 1982 to 1910. August mean in the Beaufort and Chukchi Seas, the Laptev Sea, and Baffin Bay. Warm surface water means less ice, of course. In fact, the result came too late for the report, but it turns out that October 2019 saw the lowest extent of Arctic sea ice on record. In general, 2019 will likely be the second hottest year on record overall, rivaling the blistering year of 2016. Number 4, wildlife populations are showing signs of stress. For example, the breeding population of the ivory gull in the Canadian Arctic has declined by 70% since the 1980s. And if you're up there, apparently you can see the dead birds littering the beaches. Christina Larson at AP reports, birds are migrating to the Arctic and not finding the food they need, said Matthew Druckenmiller, scientist at University of Colorado Boulder's National Snow and Ice Data Center and one of NOAA report editors. He said they're showing up with empty stomachs on the beaches. The indigenous communities are reporting seeing seabirds dead on beaches in numbers they have not seen before. Arctic Canada's breeding population of ivory gulls has declined 70% since the 1980s, a report found. It is likely due to the loss of sea ice as well as contamination in the food chain. Walid Abdalati, an environmental scientist at University of Colorado Boulder, one of Larson's interviewees, compared the ivory gull to a canary in the gold mine. A canary in the mine. That's wishful thinking. Gold. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Number 5, canary in the gold mine. Number 5, loss of sea ice and changes in bottom water temperature caused Arctic fish species to shift to more northern waters between 2010 and 2018. Commercially valuable southern species are expanding their range north to take advantage of changing conditions. As Timothy Gardner and Yaron Rosit at Reuters point out, the Bering Sea is one of the United States' largest fisheries. Now, I didn't know this, but they say more than 40% of the yearly American fish and shellfish catch comes from the Bering Sea. If some of those species migrate north out of reach of the U.S. trawlers, that will affect, of course, the American protein stock. As a historian, he says, I've taught courses on climate change and history, and one thing I can tell you, it is very unusual during the past million years for the Arctic to be so hot. This is by Joanne Cole, Middle East Southern Asian History, University of Michigan, on Common Dreams, this Creative Commons. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support.